It's past the 3 o'clock hour, so I'm going to call our regular, I guess, is this a special meeting?
It's a regular meeting.
Okay.
Oh, it does say
It says special. I feel special. Does that count?
Does it say special? Oh, it does.
Well, this is a special regularly meeting.
Right.
On August 1st here of the Norte Local Transportation Commission. So we'll call to order and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll have our general public comment period. Anyone wishing to make public comments regarding matters either on or off the agenda within the Commission's jurisdiction may do so at this time. However, the Commission is not permitted to act on non-agendized item. Any public comment this afternoon? If not, it's no one online. All right, we will move on and we will adjourn to the Policy Advisory Committee. And on consent, we have the minutes from the May 2nd, 2023 meeting and June 27th, 2023, and then an audit engagement letter with O'Connor and Company. Any public comment on consent? All right, bring it back to the Commission.
Move to approve consent.
Have a motion.
I will second.
Have a motion and a second. You poll the vote, I guess. Is Susan here?
Susan's here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, can we do a roll call? I want to make sure I have everybody that's present.
Susan is here. We just can't hear Susan.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
We knew Susan
you
was
know,
gonna
I
be
mean,
on
hard to
Zoom.
I want this to be working. Susan,
Yeah, can you hear me?
we can't hear you.
Yeah.
Hello?
I can hear you,
Yeah, I
Susan.
can hear
Do we not need to
you
call
guys.
roll call or nothing?
Can you?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm breaking up.
That's
I don't know.
a good point.
Well, my
we'll go back.
agenda's so flawed, we might as well not have one.
Okay, well, while we're trying to get Susan on, let the record reflect that Commissioner Starkey, Short, Altman, and Inscore are present for today's meeting.
Can you all hear me yet?
Can you hear me,
Do we
Susan?
want to go ahead and
I can hear you.
move on,
Like,
and then
no.
hopefully we'll get it? All right,
Yeah.
then, when it comes to the consent agenda, the motion by Commissioner Short, seconded by Commissioner Starkey. Commissioner Starkey?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Short?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner
Yes.
Altman? Commissioner Inscore, yes. All right, 4-0.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to policy and administrative. Item number C, county request to generalize the RSTP funding already awarded to address the declared emergency for the failing culvert on Washington Boulevard. We have a TAC report as well as a recommendation from staff. Tamara, you want to walk us through this? This is something we've been talking about.
Sure. This is actually different from what we've been talking about. And the county's engineer, John Olson, is here to address this. But again, I feel like I must have been demented when I put together this agenda packet because I looked in the staff recommendation and it should read adopt resolution 2023-12 allocating $353,534 of Regional Surface Transportation Program funding for the Washington Boulevard Culvert Replacement Project. And what this resolution does is it combines the prior awarded funding into a single resolution that does not identify the phases of the project, which gives the county more flexibility in implementing this project. So from the Transportation Commission's business standpoint, but I do think that we need an update from John Olson.
Yeah, last we talked about this, we were going to do a little emergency sleeve repair, and John encountered a little hiccup.
clear it up for me, John. What is it specifically that work is going to entail?
So there's a few things we need to address. One is existing utilities. So there's going to be some existing utility relocation, water, some bypass pumping for the sewer. And then it'll be basically making a large excavation so we can bench down about 10 feet. That'll get the size of equipment that they can use, ability to reach the bottom of the trench so they can dig that out. And then we have 48-inch culvert available in the yard on standby, and that's what we'll be placing back in there and then filling back up. We think the total closure time of Washington will be 7 to 10 days, somewhere in that range. So we reached out early to emergency services to let them know, hey, this is coming. And so be thinking about plans for detouring, getting around. So
That would be a hard closure, or like what you guys had last week?
that's going to be a hard closure.
Okay.
Yeah, not like the geotechnical borings that we did last week. So, yep.
And then my final question, I'm sorry to interrupt, is if this is successful, then this will be the solution.
This is the solution. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This
All
will
right.
be the solution if it's successful.
I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say when this is
when it's,
successfully
when
done.
it's successful.
Okay, thank
Yep,
you.
that's it. Thank you.
I just got one question. We talked about boring before, so that's not going to be the case this time.
That was one of the options, and based on the availability of the contractors, we talked to a few contractors. 2 said they were available to start in the near term, and one of them had the ability to do jack and bore, and with the depth of the excavation and the amount of work that you would have to do kind of down in the stream bed to create a big, robust thing to push against, because you have to push against as you're pushing the pipe in, that would actually maybe take more time because it's 23 feet deep. If we were 40, 50 deeper, there's kind of a trade-off there. Once you get to a certain depth, it starts making more sense to jack and bore. And so that's the contractor's opinion. They've done a lot more of that than I have. I've done 0 jack and bore projects, so I'm kind of leaning on their expertise in this case.
So this is going to be very similar to what we did on Cooper.
Very similar, yep. And it's just dig fast and hard and get it put back together as quickly as you can.
So, John, can you also give an update on the HIP funding? I think it's important for us
Yeah.
to acknowledge that.
Yeah, so we had about $500,000 in combined funding, 300 from RSTP, 200 in the HIP, which
Highway
Thank
Infrastructure
you.
Program.
thanks for helping me. Some of the acronyms take time to grow on you. And the HIP funds have to follow a certain process, and so we've asked the funding source, hey, can we flip that over and use that on the emergency work? And they say, well, you haven't followed the process, and so you can't really use those funds for the emergency work. If you don't do the permitting exactly this way, or if you don't procure the contractor in the way that the feds deem necessary, then we're not going to let you use those funds for that. And so that's where we're at. We think that the funds that are available will be close to sufficient to do the whole project at one shot. So that's where I'm hopeful that we can do that. And we also have some road funds and some other drainage funds that we could also use for this project. Of course, we'd have to come to the board and get those allocated, but.
So I want to be clear, with the HIP funds, those HIP funds would be lost to our community. And that's always a concern for me because we, don't like to lose funds. And if we lose those HIP funds, and it's 206.
209, something.
209, something like that, $209,000. And, but they can't be used on any project because of the timing and the way the funds work. So it's something that I want to acknowledge to you all, that $200,000 of funding is going to be truly lost to us in Del Norte County. And not only is that a loss here, but it's also a little bit of a black dot.
Appreciate it. I am glad that you brought it forward, but it's certainly something I'm willing to accept.
Oh, I totally agree. I'm not disagreeing with this action. I just want to acknowledge that that's where we will be with the HIP funding. We may hear about that down the road.
I guess I'm still a little fuzzy on the HIP funding. What do you mean lost to the county, and why would it be a black dot?
So the Highway Infrastructure Program funding was a bit of an odd source of funding, and it was primarily population-based funding, and it was awarded to regional transportation planning agencies for this kind of use across the state of California. We received a very small portion because we're a very small region, and this portion was basically set aside for us, but it's not given to us. The funding is nearly never given to us. It's only set aside or designated for the use of Del Norte County.
Only in the case of emergencies, or?
Nope,
or
no, this was, in fact, the emergency is what's making this funding unavailable for us because it's a federal fund source. The project has to be federalized and then work through all of those federal funding steps, which are,
You got NEPA, you have all the things that you have to do.
which take a very long time. Even just the bidding takes a long time. So we're not, by declaring the project an emergency, that allows the County of Del Norte to streamline some of the steps, but it eliminates this fund source as being an eligible fund source for the project. So there's no other way for us to capture those funds.
I mean, the only way we could have captured it is if a decision had been made way back before to say, this is our approach, this is how we're going to handle Washington Boulevard, and start walking through that process, which is very long. And
And we're mid-process now, and now we're
Yeah.
going to say, we're not going that way. Yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense? Did I get that right, John? I mean, I think I got
Yeah.
that right.
Yeah, I agree.
so, and there's not anything else in the queue that's going to match up with that kind of funding.
That it's too late. Even
Yep.
if we had the perfect project, it's too late.
We'd had to start.
You had to assign it years ago.
Right.
And now it's,
Well, and that's
The
the
time has
thing
passed.
is that's one of the challenges with transition, with both leadership, staff, and so forth, of being able to target something really early and start the process, because anytime you're dealing with federal money, I mean, we've figured that out with the Carissa funds for Front Street. I mean, we're still jumping through hoops, hopefully that we're going to be able to, but that's, anyway. I do appreciate you bringing it up because, and I guess my look at it, it's sort of what Valerie said is given how high-performing I believe this commission has been and our Del Norte County has been, I think this kind of black dot is pretty small.
It indeed is, and it's startling to me because we haven't done this before. I mean, this is, in all of my years here, we haven't had this kind of a circumstance.
Well, that's because you kept us,
Well,
Focused.
it's the agency partners. I mean, really, they're the ones who are the recipients of the construction funding and push a project through.
okay. Anything else? John, anything else?
no, I don't have
Do we need to make a
So
motion?
yeah, if you go into your packet where the actual resolution is, that's the action that we need for resolution 2023-12.
You got it up, go ahead.
Well, so I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2023-12 as a resolution allocating $353,534 of regional surface transportation program funding for Washington Boulevard culvert replacement project.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, any public comment? All right, seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back, and did we get Susan's mic working?
I'll go ahead
You're
and
gonna
do.
go ahead,
Oh,
okay, go ahead and poll the vote, if you would, please.
Mackenzie, there you go, thank you. I just.
Susan, can you pull the vote?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay, okay.
It's okay.
It's okay, I'll go ahead and do it.
So,
So,
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Starkey.
Yes.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Altman.
Altman.
Yes.
Chair
Chair
Inscore.
Inscore.
Yes. Very good, okay. moving on then, from our agenda standpoint, look how
We just
used
have
I am to having a mouse.
We're
and the
on
mouse wouldn't work.
to our discussion items.
Man, I tell you, discussion items, anything that you want to update us on the 199 Elk Valley Crossroad?
I don't have anything on the Elk Valley Crossroad. I do have something on the safety corridor, and that I'm going to be meeting with Caltrans folks within the next week to 2 weeks to sit with me out at the Hayuchi Hamlet and watch what happens there on a Saturday. So their staff has offered, let's come on a Saturday and see it, because it's an absolute zoo on a Saturday, 199. And there have been folks who've been asking for a pedestrian crossing there. We took a look at this about 10 years ago, and the Hayuchi Hamlet leadership was opposed to it because they didn't want it to change the configuration of their parking, but they've, I believe that they can see the even increased challenges. Part of what's add to those challenges with all that pedestrian crossing is the amazing great new trail that State Parks put in, but that comes out at the volunteer fire station there, putting even more people in that area to cross Highway 199 and to get something from the Hayuchi Hamlet, cross back. Just all of that traffic. The Hayuchi Cafe is doing a banging good business, good for them, but it also creates a challenge in that area. So I don't know, I don't know what a potential solution is going to be, but before we come up with something, it will also be impacted by the safety corridor project, because this is a component area of it. And so yeah, that's what I have there for safety on 199.
Well, maybe we could look into putting a crosswalk slightly to the north of Hayuchi Hamlet, so it doesn't affect the parking, but it's closer to the trail. Maybe it will work out better, I don't know.
Yeah, that might be an idea, but I think that they're more amenable.
To the trail, closer to the fire department, I guess.
Yeah, I think that they've sort of let it go, that they can see the need and we'll work on it.
I said north, but it's south, sorry.
South,
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was backwards, sorry.
One of those.
Closer to the fire department, let's go that way. Yeah. Tammy understood.
Yeah.
Tamara, just, she knew right where I was.
That'll be a very interesting finding, though. So I'm curious to see how that, because I know that the Hayuchi Hamlet has resisted in the past, and it's good to hear that maybe they're coming
Pedestrian
around.
bridge. I like pedestrian
Oh, I like the
bridges.
bridge idea a lot better.
I know they're horrendously expensive, but
It would be
they-
aesthetically
It's not
pleasing.
that, it's not the cost with a pedestrian bridge, it's that people actually don't use them.
Yeah, well,
They will walk right across the
I know.
highway, even though there's a pedestrian bridge.
pedestrian bridge with a big Hayuchi sign on it. It looks so cool. Couple of
The other thing that
steelhead coming up.
There you go, welcome to the Redwood Church.
The other thing that I wanted to note about,
She said it, that was awesome.
it's okay. The other thing I wanted to note about US Highway 199 is that we should receive a report on the STAA access projects in our September meeting. And I've also asked for an accounting of the cost of the litigation. And I'm expecting to have that information in our September meeting as well. This is a project where I think that we should put it as a standing item on our agenda, updates for the STAA access projects. Maybe not every meeting, but maybe quarterly, something. So,
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
okay,
That's
so
very nice.
if that's direction, then I'd like to do that, because we have $19.4 million sunk into that project already, and I think we need to track its
What's going
progress
on?
forward.
I think a lot of people are anxious to see something breaking ground up there now that everybody knows that the lawsuit is over. So
Yeah.
kind of curious, where's it going to start? Is it going to be the bridge? Is it going to be something else? So yeah, it would be interesting to get those kind of updates.
Anything on last chance grade?
I have nothing on last chance grade. I would actually, given where last chance grade is in the phases of building a highway. I actually think that we should maybe remove it from our agenda, get regular updates a few times a year. But we're the Regional Transportation Planning Agency, and this is, deep into the environmental phase. We need to track the project, absolutely, but a regular item on our agenda. When we put this on our agenda, we were contributing funding for the planning work. We were in partnership with U.S. Congressman Huffman. We were doing stakeholder meetings and funding those. So we were very involved in this, but we're going to be, several more years in the environmental phase, and there isn't going to be so much to report that's a public report. So if we could add that to a quarterly cycle. If you don't want to, we can continue to talk about it once a month, but it's kind of a slow-moving project right now.
Well, and I want to add that Caltrans just sent out flyers
They
to
did.
all of the community with an update. So they're doing their due diligence and making sure people are informed on the progress.
We do that very
Yeah,
well.
I'm totally fine with it being as a quarterly update or as needed if something comes down the pike that you feel like the commission needs to hear.
Yeah, I agree. I think the public is wondering when we're going to see 2 lanes. I think that's the biggest piece of news is when are we going to see 2 lanes on Last Chance Grade. So yeah, I agree. The quarterly little update I think would be great.
Okay. Caltrans milestones.
So the milestones report was attached to your packet. We've gone over it many times, and we can answer questions if you have questions about it, or ask the questions and bring answers back to the next meeting, either way. But that milestones report was actually sent out in, I can't remember, late June, and this was just the first time that we had space on an agenda or an agenda to include it.
So I'm new to this party, so I've not seen one of these before, and I'm also on the Middle Mile Advisory Committee for broadband, so I've taken an interest in broadband. And I'm noticing on here that there are 2 Middle Mile broadband projects. One is the $12 million funding, and I believe that is on 199. I don't think it's 199 though, because in our last meeting for the state, the Middle Mile is only going to come up 101 and stop at Smith River. And it's not going to go up 199 because they don't have enough money. So if you could find some clarification from Caltrans, I would love it if this was true, that this report was accurate, but it's my understanding that out of the 80-some miles that Del Norte County has, they're only allocating 39 miles for the fiber broadband for Del Norte County.
And I'm going to guess at the answer, but I will email the answer to everybody because you may not be in the next meeting. But I believe that the Middle Mile that you're referencing is tied to a fund source, while Caltrans is working on this everywhere, not tied to a fund source. So
that's excellent news. And I know that they were doing the build out, if they were doing construction anyway, they were getting those culverts or whatever necessary for the fiber to go through. So perhaps I am confused on that.
Yeah, but I'll check in and just to get the status of that Middle Mile that is marked on there at 199.
And I could be wrong, but when I read that, I assumed that meant from that connection where 199 leaves 101, then going north on 101.
I hope that is to be true, and that's how I read it on this.
The mileage would be about right for that too, 33.06 miles
Yeah.
To the
would
state
be
line,
about
but it has nothing to
that
do with
mileage on
199.
101.
It stays on 101 all the way to the Oregon border.
Oh, okay, so
So
that's
it's the work is done from where 199 splits.
split off, okay.
And then north on 101 to
Right.
the Oregon border,
Okay.
I think.
Okay, I like I said, I'm just tuned into it a little bit more based on my involvement in it, and I was excited to see it, but I was confused by it, so I just wanted some clarification.
I get confused by all this stuff.
Just a question for you. Are they considering 199 then to be last mile funding?
No, it's going to be phase 2 of the Middle Mile. They only had so many billions of dollars to put into this project, and I'm very frustrated. Del Norte County is once again being split into phase two.
Right.
Because, and I get their logic. It's, more people in the more populated areas that they can get to, the unserved places. But still a very frustrating thing to be up here in Del Norte County and being told that we are now phase two on a project. But we are hitting Klamath, and that's very important to me for phase one, and most of all through 101 up to Smith River.
So this is this middle mile that you're looking at. It says middle mile broadband, 33.06 miles in Del Norte County near Crescent City. It says from Route 199-101 separation to the Oregon state line. And given that it's 33 miles and it says Highway 199, I would think that was the Highway 199 project from this description here. So I will take a closer look at it and give an update.
Thank you very much. Again, if they cross over and they just didn't know, the state didn't know that Caltrans was still planning on it,
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
really don't.
Okay, anything else? Okay. I don't know if we have audio. Did Tasha have anything that, I don't know if she could tell us if she did.
Okay. Okay, as discussed, I need to disconnect, and she did let me know that she had a conflict time.
Okay, all right.
She's planning to have the project management at the next meeting to provide updates on Dr. Fine, Timbers Boulevard, 199 Roundabout, the Hunter Panther Bridges. And and she's aware of the request to the accounting, which I've actually sent to her supervisor a few times. So
Okay.
she knows that these things are coming in our meeting, and that's the note that she included.
Very good, thank you. All right, anybody have anything else then on, okay, then, let's take action then on the recommendations. I guess we have to adjourn as the Policy Advisory Committee and reconvene. Did we take any actions?
We did.
The one
We
resolution?
did with
Yeah,
one
the
resolution.
minutes, the things in the
Yeah, yeah.
consent.
All right, and we'll reconvene as the Transportation Commission. I'm looking for a motion to approve the items made by the Policy Advisory Committee.
So moved.
I have a motion by,
I will second.
and I have a second. Any public comment? All right, you know, pull the vote then, please.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Commissioner Starkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Altman,
Yes.
Chair Inscore.
Yes. All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Anyone? Tamara? John? Mackenzie, you got anything you want to tell us? Okay, so we will adjourn,
September 5th.
okay, till September 5th, right here, 3 o'clock. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you guys being here.
Yeah.